Ready?
Yep. Getting ready to go. In 10, join us with this. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and go. All right, we are jumping right in to pulling Shaw of Fear, the first boss here.
Yeah, technically usually the fourth boss in the instance, but we're mixing things up a little bit today. What exactly bosses are we going to be moving through today?
It's going to be Shaw of Fear, then the Dark Shaman, Malkarok, Siegecrafter Blackfuse, and Garrosh, of course on heroic mode.
Yeah, so we're going through an absolute all-out race through this instance today, and we can see already the guilds are very, very even in terms of boss percentage, both hitting the 76%, 77%, right about the same time here.
Yeah, you can see really as they all pop all their cooldowns, all their timers on the pull, the boss health just melts.
Yeah, totally. So, trying to check our exact rate compositions here. I believe they're actually pretty similar overall. They're both running, you can see on the screen here, on that left side we will have the two tanks, followed by the healers, and then the DPS afterwards. So it looks like Midwinter running 5 healers. I believe Method is running 6.
That is correct. Now the heroic mechanic on Shaw of Pride, many of you may be familiar with the fights and other difficulties. On heroic mode, one of the major additions is if you look at the floor, if you look at the ground around the room, there are these little rifts, these black and white Shaw pools that form, and each one of those just lobs missiles at random members of the raid that deal splash damage and give you corruption if you don't avoid them. And you have to go stand them, you have to go close them by standing on them, which inflicts damage on you, and there's a cooldown on how many you can close, how quickly. Now, of course, going to close them is going to reduce your DPS. A normal guild playing it safe is going to try to, keep as many closed as possible. But here, I think, in a speedrun, they're going to try to push it as hard as they can, and of course, there's some risk involved in that.
And of course, that is in addition to all of the normal mode mechanics. So they've got to deal with all of that as well. Still very, very neck and neck thus far in this raid instance.
Yeah, you can really see that the DPS of these two guilds is really perfectly evenly matched. They're just within 1%, even a couple of minutes in at this point. Now, you'll see both guilds have placed raid markers at the 4 corners of the platform. That's because every minute, 4 random members of the raid are going to be imprisoned there, and 3 people each have to go and break them out and free them. You see that happen right there on Midwinter screen. When the panels light up orange, you go stand on them, they turn blue, and that's how you free your raid members. The longer they spend in there, the less damage they're going to do, the further they'll fall behind.
Yeah, exactly. So getting those guys out of those little prisons that they get stuck in is definitely very, very important here. I'm still impressed at how closely matched this is. These are definitely 2 of the best guilds in the world. Of course, Method being the #1 25-man Horde guild, and Midwinter being the #1 25-man Alliance guild. Very, very awesome to see these 2 guilds face off today.
Yep. So they're coming up. So they're coming up on the 30% mark when there's a phase transition. Norishen, who's been helping out the raid at this point, you see him standing off on the right side of your screen. He will sacrifice himself to cleanse the raid's pride, and at that point it's just a race to the finish, as the Shaw of Pride pulses, increasing damage, and gives pride to the members of the raid, which will trigger more and more abilities. But of course, these guilds are both going to be able to burn the boss down pretty quickly at that point. We see them both hitting that 30% mark right now. Again, just 1% difference between the 2.
Yeah, they should be popping all of their DPS cooldowns remaining at this point. Of course, it hasn't been long since the initial pull, so they may not have many of them readily available, but still, that boss is absolutely melting in the wake of these 2 guilds. And it looks like Method may actually be starting to pull slightly ahead in boss DPS. It's so close right now.
This is pretty much as close to neck and neck as you're going to get. They're both hitting 20% now.
Yeah, I literally cannot look between these 2 screens fast enough to figure out which number is changing first. This is ridiculously fast.
And you can see raid health on both is pretty stable. Every so often the Shaw fires out a volley of bolts and the health spikes down, but everyone gets topped off pretty quickly.
Yeah, damage as this phase continues is going to start ramping up quickly. Oh, we do have 1 dead, 2 dead, 3 dead now.
Quick battle res on Method side, so only 2 dead, now back to just 1 dead.
Yep,
out those battle reses. But that has meant Midwinter's actually pulled like 2% ahead. So in this first, every second counts. You never know how close it's going to get.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Midwinter's 3% ahead now. It looks like they're going to get this kill first.
2%. 1%. And
there it is.
course, Method not far behind either at 2%, 1%, and there it is.
So, first blood for Midwinter. You know, the underdogs, many consider them, but here they are pulling out a few seconds ahead. Now, the way we're doing this, as soon as Shav Pride is defeated, the group is ported immediately to Orgrimmar, where they're going to face off against the Kor'kron Dark Shaman. Now, this boss is actually one that offers some opportunity to really save some time if you want to be risky. Many guilds, in fact, I would say most guilds, use a third tank on this fight and split up the two bosses, pulling them apart to make their abilities much less dangerous. However, if you keep them stacked together for the entire fight, well, you can actually squeeze out much more DPS and get a quicker kill, but with much higher risk. It remains to be seen whether one or both of these guilds is going to take the riskier approach in the speedrun today.
Yeah, and in fact, on that note, very interesting choice by Method there. Actually taking a few extra seconds to get themselves prepared before they pull the boss does give Midwinter a little bit more of a head start in boss DPS. They already have them at 85%, but if they take that extra time and just make sure that they have no issues whatsoever. I mean, hectic is kind of a light word to explain how ridiculous this fight can be.
Pretty much. It's a relatively simple fight, but when all the abilities interact, it's incredibly chaotic. So the extra little wrinkle here on Heroic is that normally each of the Shaman, they have 3 elemental totems that they drop at certain health percentages, which grant them and empower certain abilities. On Heroic mode, there's an additional totem that creates iron-related abilities. It both creates these collision blockers that will basically crush you if you don't get out of the way, and puts a really powerful potent dot that sticks for the entirety of someone's health bar on random members of the raid. And that's starting right away. So here we see, interesting, okay, so Midwinter is definitely keeping them together. They're trying to cleave them down, but you can already see how busy the screen is on Midwinter's side, with those tornadoes going all over the place, and any number of things that will kill you. Method, on the other hand,
they're actually taking them inside of the room there.
Yeah, so Method is actually separating them to an extent, keeping one inside Grommash Hole, the other one outside, to get that ability separation between the two, but that's going to come at the expense of some damage. So really, if Midwinter can pull off the strat they're using, they're going to pull actually a fair bit ahead here, but it's risky. If they wipe, then it's all for naught.
It is absolutely a huge risk, and one interesting thing about this in particular, I mean, we talk about, these are obviously 2 of the best guilds in the world right now, but progression rating and a race like this, it's still a very different thing. It's a question of how much can you capitalize on these little risk versus reward moves like this. If Midwinter, if this works out for them, and they do have 2 dead players right now, and I'm sorry, I'm not sure if they've actually used any 3 dead players now. Not sure if they've used any battle reses yet. Looks like one Shaman just used reincarnation. I think I saw a death on Method's side as well there for a second. Oh, Midwinter in trouble, 4 dead.
Now this is a fight. It's not uncommon to lose several people on the Dark Shaman fight, as long as you keep your healers, as long as you keep your tanks intact. Ooh, though you can't lose too many.
Yeah. Remember, Midwinter is running with, is that actually down to 4 healers for this? Is that 2 healers? Do they only have, where are their healers? I cannot find, oh, there they are in the middle. Okay, they've moved around on the screen a little bit, apologies for that, but they are down several DPS now at this point, which is going to make it difficult. They're at 40% on the boss, and Method is actually catching up now at 50%.
So that's ultimately that risk-reward trade-off, right? What they gain by keeping the bosses together and being able to cleave them simultaneously, they lose by having 4 people dead. Turns out that's right.
Turns out when, you know, you lose several, you just don't do much DPS as a corpse on the floor, generally speaking. It's really hard to keep that going when you're, you know, dead.
Yep. Method does still have 1 death, but that doesn't seem to be hindering them as they're steadily closing the gap here. It seems like their more methodical approach to the encounter, planning before they pull, and separating them may be paying off.
Yeah, in fact, Method even had a battle res available for that 1 dead DPS, so they are totally fine right now. Midwinter looking a little dicey, but they are down to 29%. Don't have too much longer that they need to hold this together, and they are still in the lead, so they may still be able to pull out the advantage here.
That said, the hardest part of the fight is that last 25%. These are Shamans, and well, Shamans cast Bloodlust. So when the boss gets to 25%, they trigger Bloodlust, which increases their damage output, their attack speed, it basically increases the pace of everything going on in the fight, and hopefully they can outlast that.
There's 1 more death for Midwinter.
Yep.
Now at 20%, they're getting into that execute range. DPS should come up a little bit, but not if they keep losing members. That's now 8 dead, maybe 7 dead.
7 down on Midwinter's side, looks like.
Yeah, we just have one on Method for Method, but Method has now hit that Bloodlust phase as well. Oh dear. Now that's a lot of dead, but they may still be able to pull this off. That's a lot of dead though.
It really is. I mean, as long as their tanks are up and as long as they have a few healers to keep those tanks up, you can keep this fight going for a long time. It's going to be messy. It's not the thing you want to have happen in a speed race. Now, of course, if you look over at Method screen, inside Grommash Hold, there's basically no room to maneuver.
Oh, there is no space in there at all.
It is just full of elementals from those ashen walls, and the iron tombs just stacked everywhere. So they're really pinned into a corner, but fortunately for them, the fight is almost over. The finish line is in sight.
Midwinter definitely looking in some trouble here. They do have them at 8%. They may still be able to finish it off in time, but 7% for Midwinter, 9% for Method. A tank is down for Midwinter.
So now the question is, can Midwinter burn this boss down, or are they going to wipe to Dark Shaman, which will set them fairly significantly behind?
Yeah, that would put them ridiculously behind, as Method has now pulled into the lead on boss DPS. Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's self-evident. There's
Method kills the boss.
Method with the kill. And Midwinter with the heartbreaking 3% life.
Oh,
so close.
That hurts.
So close.
Now.
So in the meantime, now, Meth is moving on to Malkorok. Midwinter, they're going to have to res, rebuff, and try again.